How do I know that what I think I'm hearing in my head, whether it's a voice out loud or thoughts that come into me, how do I know that what I think I'm hearing is actually God and not something else? How do I know that the views that I believe are God's views, how do I know that they actually are God's views? That's the point of this discernment series. And if you're on this video and not in the playlist, you can go to our playlist and you'll capture the other videos that are part of this. The first one, we talked about 4 priorities to utilize to examine the things you encounter in life. One of those is Scripture, which is going to be a big part of this next step of the journey of figuring out how to discern God's voice and discern right and wrong and all of those things. So we want to utilize those priorities. So if you didn't catch that video, go back and catch that video. Maybe I'll put a link into the description here. But one of the biggest obstacles outside of utilizing those four priorities, one of the biggest obstacles to discerning correctly is a lack of humility. So I can start where I approach ideas and I say, no, I'm not going to listen to that because that idea disagrees with this idea that I have. And the problem with that is, what if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong in a particular view that I have, and I am unwilling to listen to any challenges to that view, then how will I ever discover that the view I have is incorrect? Even if I have it based in what I believe is a biblical application, I have certain verses that I think are saying this view that I have. If I refuse to ever listen to someone proposing a challenge to that view, again, how will I ever know that my view is wrong if it's wrong? And so I have this need to remain open to the possibility that all my views are incorrect. Now, there's a great danger in doing that, and that is part of the reason why many people refuse to listen to ideas that challenge their ideas, because they feel, or because they know that you can fall prey to false teaching, you can embrace a lie, and you could potentially even be risking your faith and your salvation in the process. So we don't want that to happen. But I think that we don't realize that the same possibilities on that side are on the other side of safety as well. I can believe in something that is based supposedly in Bible, but be completely incorrect. And I could end up like the Pharisees are, and Jesus accused them of this constantly, that you consider Mark 12:24, that they were flawed. They weren't getting it because they didn't understand the Scriptures. It wasn't that they didn't know it and didn't have a bunch of knowledge about the Scriptures. They didn't accurately understand it. It's for that reason that Jesus would call the Pharisees the blind leading the blind. And in that condition, he said, wouldn't they both fall into a pit? And so I can have religion and beliefs that are supposedly based in Bible, but still be so off as to even potentially be in a place where I'm not actually saved. And if I refuse to ever listen to challenges to my ideas, I will never find that out. So there is a danger on that side as well. So this danger of potentially not only having a wrong view, but potentially not being in the faith exists on both sides. So to be too open-minded can result in this potential loss of faith, but to be too closed-minded can do it either. So it's one of those scenarios where we're kind of have to find a way to be stuck in the middle. And when that happens, how do I know what ideas to welcome and what ideas to shoot down? And in the process, that means ideas are going to come at me that are not correct. So how am I going to interact with that as I get an influx of ideas? And just like I said in the last video, that third priority, I have to be able to listen to other voices in my life in order to help me in my discernment. So I need this influx of information, whether it's coming from other people in conversation, whether it's coming from ideas that are surfacing within me, whether it's coming from materials, books, internet articles, whether it's coming from TV preachers or communicators in any form, in videos, online or TV or whatever, authors. This information is coming at me, and I need information coming at me. This is going to aid in discernment, but I need to know how to process that information correctly. Now, a good part of it is examining stuff by Scripture, and the more I have insight and knowledge, a working knowledge of the whole of the Bible, the better I'm going to be able to do this. And that's really the biggest part of this, is not that I'm just going to be open to any idea and accept any idea and reject any idea that I've had in the past, but when an idea comes, I'm going to use those 4 priorities again in evaluating it. So the idea comes, and I ask myself, is this biblical? I study Scripture, and I try to run it through the Bible to see if it's contradicted in Scripture, this idea that came to me. If it's not contradictory to Scripture, then I'm going to run it through my conscience. Do I feel conflicted in my conscience about it? Then I'm going to run it by some other trusted Christian friends. Then I'm going to see if practically, if it actually fits the life narrative and it makes sense. I'm going to use some logic there. So I'm going to do those things to evaluate that. The people who fall off the cliff with being open-minded are those that don't actually have something as a guide. And so we need to have a guide. We have Scripture, and again, we have Christian fellowship, all those different things. So as long as we are walking through that influx of information with a guide, then those guides, those biblical guides should help me, should prevent me from accepting things that are not right and falling off a cliff. And again, I have to do this open-minded approach in order to get there. But I have to acknowledge that it's possible, even if it's a belief I've had for years, even if it's a belief that I have a bunch of people that agree with me, even well-known, prominent individuals, maybe some solid Christian authors or Christian speakers or whatever it is. I have a lot of prominent people that agree with that. I still have to be open-minded that this view could be incorrect, but only if someone can demonstrate that to me primarily with biblical evidence that the view is incorrect. And that's the primary focal point. But I have to it's amazing how we just want to be done. We just want to say, well, I examined the issue, so I'm done. No, every single time. So it might be the 15th time that someone has challenged that particular viewpoint. Every single time you want to give an impartial, fair hearing, but you're utilizing Scripture. You're looking to see, is there actually a biblical case that changed this viewpoint? If there isn't, sticking with the view. If there is, again, it doesn't matter what's behind me. Decades of believing it. My pastor believed it. A lot of other Christians believed it. Prominent theologians believed it. Whatever, the majority believes it. It doesn't matter. If the Bible, as this next bit of information came to me, is now revealing that the view I had back there is wrong, I need to change. And that takes a lot of humility to get to a place to embrace that possibility. But if I don't, I'm going to always lack in discernment. I'm going to struggle to know what God is saying if I don't know how to walk in this middle ground of evaluating things and staying faithful to the Word, but at the same time being open to the ideas that are coming in. So I hope that this helps you on your journey to discern what God is saying and what God's views are. If you have any questions, I would love to attempt to answer those. Just leave those in comments, and I'll be glad to respond to your questions. Or if you just have comments regarding the content of the video, again, you can leave those in the comments. If you think that this video is useful, maybe helpful to somebody else, then please share it to that person. And if you like the content of this video and would like to be notified when the next video is uploaded, then please just subscribe to our channel on YouTube and hit the notification bell. And on Facebook, follow our page, and you should receive notifications when the next video is uploaded. Thank you for being with me, and let's go and discern what God is saying.